being here. It's amazing to have all of you in here. And we just talked about this before we came up. All of you are working with the most exciting things that humanity has ever worked on, probably. I mean, Senator Josh Hawtley and Sundar Pichai has both described this as potentially bigger than fire. So I think we're both honored to be here. And with me today, I have you, Carl-Henric. You have been CEO of Assa Abloy, Ericsson, and chairman of many huge organizations, probably one of the Swedes that have the most experience of huge changes and trying to captain or shift large organizations through changes. So I think it's going to be interesting to hear your view. I want to start off by asking you, what's your view on, what's the future going to be like with AI? How are we going to run organizations and society? A small starting question.
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me. It's fantastic to be here, and I'm glad to see so many people that are working with AI. I think you should all go home with the feeling that you are living in unbelievably exciting times. Times that we will, in 20, 30, 40 years' time, we will talk about it when it all happened. I think it is important, though, just to remember that I understand that it feels like AI now is going so fast. But don't forget that the first conference on AI algorithms, the self-learning algorithms, I think, took place in 1952, which is the year I was born. And what really happened now is the chipset and compute power that makes it go so fast. But there are those things that releases abilities, and then it goes fast. But in reality, it does take a little longer time for all to happen. And of course, AI gives us access to all knowledge in the world. At the same time, we can help people work so much faster, so much more intelligent.
But I mean, I think you put your finger on something very important. I guess many in this room feel like everything is happening super fast, and you hear politicians and company leaders talking about it in this way, like we need to act now, now, now. So why isn't it happening faster?
Well, I think when you take new technologies, there's so much that needs to work at the same time. Chipsets may be fast or whatever, but how do you get culture to come along in a company? How do you get everybody on board? We need to learn, we need to teach all Swedes about AI. We need to have AI education for doctors, AI education for lawyers, in everything before all takes off. All like you and like me, that when I worked at Ericsson, tech is everything, but it takes a lot to make a whole country move.
So essentially the human factor is the slow factor, not
Absolutely.
only the data infrastructure and compute. What can everyone in this room do to help with behaviors and getting everyone on board that this is something exciting and not dangerous?
Well, I think in some ways you are like apostles. You should take on your role to help educate the world. This is not so difficult. I say to people when we need to demystify AI in some ways. I say to people that if I write an SMS, this is a very simplistic thought, but if I write to my wife and I write my wonderful wife, if I send 10 SMSs, I get to my wonderful, and it suggests wife. Then after my, it suggests the whole thing. Then with an M, it suggests the whole thing. That's a self-learning algorithms. This is in its very simplistic form. And I think it helps people to understand, because we think that SMS thing is the most natural thing in the world. This is what AI does, and think about how that can help us in so many ways in society.
I like that thought. I mean, if everyone here and everyone watching tells 3 people a really tangible example of the good things we can do with AI and data, and they tell 3 people in turn, I think that can have a big effect. Like talking about leadership and behaving differently. On a board level in large organizations and working with the CEO, how do they need to act in order to change? Like obviously they can't just tell the organization, you have to do this AI thing, and then they go about things the usual way.
Well, I think in a large organization, there are so many things that has to happen before you can be successful. You need to understand the need of the customers. You need to understand your processes, the way you're working in the company. You need to understand where your competitors are. You need to educate. All of this takes time. Of course, with AI, it boosts it, so it goes so much faster. But that doesn't take away the importance of thinking or really making sure that everybody comes along. And from a board point of view, I like to see the board a little bit like a tent with the Indian chiefs, old retired Indian chiefs. And here's the present chief, and he wants to go there, he wants to do this. And those around should be supporters. We should make the CEO feel energized when it comes to our meetings, but we should ask the difficult questions. AI cannot help with that. It can help of getting information, understanding, driving processes faster. But as a board, we need to make sure that the creative thinking and the process for that is in place.
So, I mean, sometimes in boardrooms, or often, there's a few people who want to be the experts on things. Do you think that will become less frequent in the future when we have access to more data and more knowledge?
I think at the end of the day, I like at least the majority in the board to be people that have been there and done it. And even if there is a technology shift, those things are not changing. You have your dreams, you have your ideas, some work, some don't. And encourage when things are not going so well, and try to hold back a little bit when you get overly enthusiastic. Yeah. But it doesn't take away the fact, and I think actually on that also, the board, it's a little bit like, I mean, we have, from the pandemic, we started to work a lot from home. We have our Zoom meetings. I just don't think that we are creative on Zoom meetings. You don't build company cultures, you don't build leadership talent, you don't identify talent. So I think all these Zoom meetings, they are good as a complement, but it doesn't take away the importance of a real discussion when you're meeting one another and you're saying, I heard you say that, and then she said that. And that makes me think maybe we should do this. That process requires that you're together.
Well, not until we get proper vision and sensory tanks.
Yeah, we could do that, yeah.
But if I kind of point on that board meeting, we all have experience from people saying, I know how this works, I've done it before. Do you think that saying will become less frequent in the future in a world where we will actually trust data and have access to data more?
Well, I think, first of all, that access to data make you more precise. Yeah. I mean, you base the discussion much more on data and reality and less of guesswork. And with the access to data, you can have the real discussion much more thorough. But you have no, I mean, there isn't room for what we call in Swedish, Besserwisser, German. It's, we don't have room for that in leadership teams, or doesn't help.
Let's move on. I mean, one of the responsibilities you have right now, which is, I think is very important for Sweden, is you're heading the AI Commission, which our current government has tasked. And we know, I mean, it's tasked to accelerate the use of AI in Sweden. Yeah. And we all know such commissions can have a great impact, but it can also lead to mostly words. What do you think is the most crucial things for the Commission now doing to really boost and help Sweden? Yeah,
I actually think, first of all, when you come into a place like this, it's full of energy. Everybody's so on, wants to go on and do things. That's the spirit we, of course, want to create in the whole of Sweden. From a Commission's point of view, we have started to look at what we call the boundary conditions, the prerequisites. Do we have enough power, electricity generation? If we take the language models, the computers, by 2030, we think they will consume half of what Sweden will need in electricity to convert the entire car fleet. So this is very, as you know, very energy-hungry algorithms. Still maybe 5% of all the electricity produced, but it needs to be there. If it's not certain that it's there, we will not have the investments in Sweden. That needs to be there. The mobile 5G networks, the digital infrastructure, we have invented 5G, and still we're behind US, China, Japan, India. That needs to be fixed. We need to make sure that we graduate more engineers. That's a given. But an engineer takes 5 years. So if we decide today, it still takes 5 years before any more come out than before. But more importantly, we need AI education in lawyers' education, doctors' education. That's even more important. We need risk capital. So those things need to be in place. That's a given. We would look then at the private sector, people like yourselves, I would think most of you. There's a natural DNA in your minds to continuously think, what am I missing? What can I do differently? How can I speed up? All those things. I think from big to small companies, I think we're pretty charged, and we need to have the prerequisites there. The big task for us, 50% of our country is the public sector, hospitals, all the welfare systems, school teachers, all of it. There is an enormous potential for using AI. Think about the doctor that can immediately, when he sees a thing, he has access. I have a knee problem. Wow, that's a strange knee problem. I haven't seen that before. How fast can I get knowledge to similar cases? Immediately with AI. But it requires that a doctor in Luleå or a hospital in Luleå defines a knee in the same way as in Malmö or Stockholm. Otherwise, we don't get the data advantage of it. So to work with the public sector, to get the data definitions right, to get the compute power, to get the training, these are critical things.
I think there's also something behind your words that I thought about now, which I thought about when we spoke last time, and that is the curiosity and willingness to speak to people,
Yes.
listen and understand. And I told you, you should speak to this person from
Yes.
Canada. You say, yeah, sure, of course. Because usually, or sometimes when you tell someone you should speak to them, the response is, no, I have got my experts.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because often, if you can impact others, to speak to others and learn and be curious, I think that has a big impact as well, going back to what we talked about in the beginning.
I mean, you couldn't be more right. It's to make Sweden successful in AI, and I'm sure we will. It's not about the algorithms per se, or about electricity, about these things I spoke about. Compute power, that needs to be there. But you need to win people's the interest in starting to use AI. We have used the last 3 months, I think we have over 70 meetings. We met with companies, small, large entrepreneurs, risk capitalists. We worked with the communities, kommunerna, with the hospitals. We met even art workers. We have met every single group of people that wants to talk to us. And we come more educated, more informed, wiser out of every single meeting. If you do that, you start to get a bit of a feeling what we are up against. And one of the things that becomes very clear is that besides we need to work in the same way so we can compare the data and all of that, but from a governmental point of view, it becomes crucial to have one leader that has an overall responsibility for AI. That's how you would do it in a company. You're hit by a new technology, and now you need, what do I do with it? Well, you start something under one leadership. Then if you have a distributed organization model, you can distribute it out after 5 years when things have settled. But you need full attention when you want to make the transformation.
Yeah, I agree with the leadership and the vision, and that's something we hear over and over again. But I just want to take that thing, you say, like the curiosity and willingness to speak to people and just send it out to you, because I think it's easy for everyone to fall into the trap of saying, I think that person is wrong, and then just be silent. When you get that reaction, call that person, email that person. If that, it could be a parliamentarian, they will usually take a lunch with you and you can discuss that thing. Do that, because that has 100x more impact than just sitting on internet and complaining about, I don't agree. So take that dialogue. I think that's really good. And I want to also ask a question. What are the obvious pitfalls that we should avoid in Sweden moving forward? What could we do that could stop us, like where we could just stand in the same place?
Well, I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong. I think we have enough of them. But I mean, those prerequisites needs to be in place, and we need to understand that. I think we need to get that leadership and all of that. But when I'm looking back in my previous jobs, if I go to traditional companies like when I was leading as a lawyer, or when even Volvo 12 years ago, Volvo was, it was a company, if you said, I heard that a competitor is doing this, yeah, they always say, but you know, we have our products, we believe in our products, and not almost a laid-back situation to what goes on. And in such organization, change is scary. What happens if we start to change? What happens to me? If you then take Ericsson, if you say to, if I would say to Börje or whoever, the CEO of Ericsson, if I would say to him or to some of his people, I heard that Nokia was doing that. What? What did you say? Or Huawei, what did they do? My God, I need to be on top of that. And they know that everything is changing so fast now. So if I don't do anything, I clearly will go wrong. Only if I do something, I have a chance to make it right. So change is an absolute prerequisite to stay relevant. And that is in the DNA of a fast-moving organization. I'm sure it's the same thing for a lot of you. And the risk with a country is that we think, yeah, this is coming, but we know how to do things. The doctors, we know how to do things. I have my colleagues, I can ask, I can do this, I can do that. The biggest risk is that we don't embrace change at a time like this.
I think that's spot on, if I mirror you. So a risk is that there's some change going on over there that could be valuable, but we disregard it with some excuse that, yeah, I mean, they have a different culture or a different view on something else, so we don't even talk to them and we don't learn from them, and we end up inventing the wheel ourselves from this.
You know, I remember we in a situation where a division with 10,000 people of Ericsson had a meeting and totally reorganized the division, totally. And out comes one of the leading guys in the organization, and he's completely fired up. And he says, we have the greatest organization here coming. And then I said, but what are you going to do? I have no idea. I'm going to find something, but this is right. This is the way we have to work now.
So we're running out of time. If you want to send a few final words, if you could ask all these people for help with your work at the AI Commissions, what would you ask for?
Well, I would just ask, as I said at the beginning, go out there and teach and preach. You are part of all the apostles that are going to win this world. The world is going to change, and we need to be part of that change. And we want Sweden to, in 10 years' time, to have an even stronger position in the world. And I think we can do it, but not without people like yourselves. So go and do your job.
Thank you so much, Carl-Henric. Really fun talking to you.
Thank you.